On February 28, 2026, the Middle East didn't just cross a red line, it erased it entirely. Following a historic and devastating joint military operation by the United States and Israel, over 1,200 individuals were killed inside Iran. Among the casualties was the architect of Iran's modern geopolitical strategy, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Within hours, the Assembly of Experts moved to fill the power vacuum, appointing his son Mojtaba Khamenei as the new Supreme Leader. His ascension came with a single uncompromising mandate: total unmitigated retribution. US President Donald Trump publicly declared the new Ayatollah unacceptable, warning that the escalating confrontation could drag on for weeks. But the warnings came too late. Retaliation was already in the air. Over the past few days, the sky above the Persian Gulf has been entirely rewritten by contrails of fire. Iran continues to strike America's Gulf allies with missiles and drones. The latest strikes have been reported from Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and also Iraq. This is no longer a shadow war fought through proxies in the mountains of Yemen or the deserts of Syria. This is a direct regional inferno, and the very foundation of American military and economic power in the Middle East is currently fighting for its life. To understand the sheer scale of Iran's retaliation, you have to look at the island kingdom of Bahrain. Before this escalation, the streets of Manama were a bustling hub of international finance and diplomacy, heavily intertwined with the West. The Kingdom of Bahrain was one of the key architects of the Abraham Accords, actively normalizing relations with Israel and strengthening its security partnership with the United States. Tehran has not forgotten this. The brutal bombardment of Manama is not just an arbitrary lashing out, it is a calculated punishment. The sheer volume of incoming fire is staggering. According to the updated statistics released by the Bahrain Defense Force, the total number of items intercepted and destroyed since the beginning of these attacks is 102 missiles and 171 unmanned aerial vehicles, which had attempted to target the kingdom's airspace. Bahraini authorities also revealed that the country has intercepted 102 missiles and 171 drones fired from Iran since the US and Israel launched their war against Tehran. But air defenses, no matter how advanced, are a game of numbers, and Iran is playing to overwhelm. The impenetrable shield finally cracked. The attack took place early on the morning of Monday, March 10th. Bahrain authorities said a woman was killed and 8 other people were injured in a direct hit on a residential building in Manama. The country's Ministry of Interior described the strike as a blatant Iranian aggression against the island kingdom. The Gulf nation added that the attack was a blatant act of aggression as tensions across the Middle East continue to escalate. The horror quickly spread beyond the capital. This morning, the heinous Iranian aggression indiscriminately targeted civilian objectives in the Sitra region, resulting in the injury of 32 citizens and causing significant material damage. The attacks have drawn sharp condemnation from Bahrain's leadership. King Hamad bin Isa al Khalifa denounced the Iranian strikes against Gulf nations. The psychological warfare is just as intense as the kinetic strikes. A few days prior, Iranian drones deliberately slammed into the Crown Plaza Hotel, a purely civilian leisure establishment in Manama's diplomatic area. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps broadcasted the strikes on their channels, chillingly quoting Quranic verses to send a terrifying message to tourists and Western diplomats: no luxury tower, no matter how tall, can protect you. But Iran's targets aren't just civilian infrastructure or local financial districts. They are actively hunting the American military apparatus. To fully grasp the gravity of this, one must understand that Bahrain hosts the headquarters of the US Navy's 5th Fleet. This fleet protects the world's most critical shipping lanes, ensuring the uninterrupted flow of global energy supplies. Striking near its headquarters is the geopolitical equivalent of kicking the gates of the Pentagon. Amid the confusion, pro-Iranian accounts claim that a hotel housing US diplomats and Department of Defense personnel in Manama had been struck by a direct drone attack. The panic was amplified when earlier reports from Iranian media also said explosions were heard near the US Navy's 5th Fleet base in the Bahraini capital. Several Telegram channels also reported a fire in the Jufir district, the area where the US Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters is located. Videos circulating online appear to show flashes of fire and smoke rising above buildings, while warning sirens echo across the city. To make matters worse, terrifying rumors began to swirl regarding the efficacy of the defense network itself. Some reports also claimed an impact in Manama involving Patriot interceptor systems, with speculation that a malfunction may have occurred. The economic lifeblood of the nation wasn't spared either. At the same time, an Iranian strike reportedly sparked a fire at Bahrain's only oil refinery, sending thick plumes of smoke into the sky. The Al Ma'amir petroleum complex attack proved that Tehran is entirely willing to plunge the global energy markets into absolute chaos to achieve its strategic objectives. The shockwaves of Iran's new aggressive doctrine have reached the very heart of the Arabian Peninsula. Saudi Arabia has been a critical partner for decades, hosting American personnel, vast stores of military equipment, and deeply classified intelligence operations. Now they are standing directly in the crosshairs. In a stunning escalation of the widening Middle East conflict, the United States has ordered the first mandatory evacuation of embassy personnel in Saudi Arabia since the war began. For weeks, US officials had only allowed voluntary departures, but the calculus has fundamentally shifted. According to the United States Department of State, non-essential American embassy staff and their families have been ordered to leave Saudi Arabia immediately due to rising security threats. When a diplomatic mission transitions from an authorized voluntary departure to a mandatory evacuation, it signals a catastrophic breakdown in host nation security. It means the United States intelligence apparatus no longer believes the heavily armed Kingdom of Saudi Arabia can guarantee the lives of American citizens. What triggered this drastic protocol? The answer lies inside the heavily fortified walls of the diplomatic compound in Riyadh. Officials say drones struck the diplomatic complex, causing structural damage and forcing personnel to shelter in place. According to internal alerts cited in reports, the impact partially collapsed sections of the embassy roof and filled parts of the compound with smoke. But the true target may have been much more valuable than simple brick and mortar. Two sources familiar with the incident told reporters that one of the drones may have struck facilities connected to the Central Intelligence Agency station, housed inside the embassy complex. If this surgical strike is confirmed, it represents a devastating symbolic and operational blow, targeting one of Washington's most vital intelligence hubs in the entire region. The Saudi government is desperately trying to hold the line against the sky. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia says it also intercepted incoming threats. The Saudi Ministry of Defense said it destroyed a ballistic missile in the eastern part of the country and shot down 2 drones east of Al-Khaj Governorate. Yet the defensive net couldn't catch everything. Officials said that a projectile landed in the province of Al-Khaj, killing 2 people and injuring at least 12 others. The flames of retaliation are refusing to be contained. Iran appears absolutely determined to widen its response across the entire Gulf. Similar drone attacks have reportedly hit American diplomatic facilities in Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates. On March 3rd, a drone struck the parking lot of the US consulate in Dubai, sparking a fire and proving nowhere is truly out of reach. In Kuwait, the military is on extremely high alert. Kuwait's National Guard says it has downed 6 drones in the north and south of the country. The statement comes after the Kuwaiti army said it destroyed 2 ballistic missiles and 2 drones in the country's airspace on Monday. Further south, military planners are sweating. For example, Al Udeid Air Base serves as the largest US military installation in the Middle East. Situated in Qatar, it remains under the constant looming shadow of potential ballistic strikes. But beyond the military bases and the diplomatic compounds lies a far more terrifying vulnerability, a silent threat that could bring these mega cities to their knees within days. Water. The Gulf states are heavily dependent on massive desalination plants. These are massive, highly complex and incredibly fragile industrial marvels that line the coasts, sucking in seawater and pushing out the literal lifeblood of these desert empires. Kuwait relies on these facilities for roughly 90% of its drinking water. Saudi Arabia relies on them for 70%. A single swarm of loitering munitions could offline a plant for months. There are no backup rivers, there are no massive freshwater lakes. If Iran shifts its targeting matrix from oil refineries to these fragile coastal water treatment facilities, millions of civilians could be left without drinking water in the middle of the desert. It is an apocalyptic scenario that has shifted from a theoretical tabletop exercise to an imminent existential threat. We are witnessing the real-time unraveling of the Middle Eastern security architecture. For decades, the United States maintained an absolute aura of invincibility in the Gulf, projecting unparalleled power from heavily fortified bases and sprawling diplomatic complexes. But asymmetric warfare, powered by cheap mass-produced drones and long-range precision ballistic missiles, has completely leveled the playing field. The mandatory evacuation of US personnel from Saudi Arabia is more than just a logistical maneuver designed to save lives. It is a glaring historical admission that the American shield has finally failed. As Mojtaba Khamenei solidifies his grip on power in Tehran, and as Washington scrambles to fortify its remaining battered assets, the people of Bahrain, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia are left staring anxiously at the sky, simply waiting for the sirens to wail again. The confrontation has completely escalated beyond a shadow war. It is out in the open, broadcasted on Telegram and written in the dark smoke rising above the US. Fifth Fleet, the world is holding its breath, waiting to see if this fire can be contained by diplomacy, or if the entire Gulf will be entirely consumed in the inferno.